Hello, everyone. Welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us CA Aditya Sesh, who is the founder of Basiz Fund Services Private Limited, which is a sub-fund accounting firm delivering services to hedge fund administrators and hedge funds as well. They cater to approximately 4% of global financial statement preparation market for hedge funds. Hi, Mr. Aditya. Welcome to ELI.
Thank you so much, Priyaranjanji. It is wonderful to be talking to you. And I'm
Likewise.
happy to share with you my experiences.
Uh, to start off with, I would request you to introduce yourself to our audience.
So thank you for having me on the show. And I will keep my introduction as short as possible because it is not my introduction that is important. It is what we have done that is important. So I am a chartered accountant, been in fund administration industry for the past 25 years abroad and then in India. I had the good fortune of being involved in this industry very earlier on in the industry's infancy itself. In fact, I saw the birth of private equity funds way back in 1997, 2000. I mean, I saw the growth, seen hedge funds come in, grow to $1 billion. Some of them crash. Have seen the birth of cryptocurrency fund. Have seen it going up, going down. Have seen mezzanine funds, loan swap funds. So I think in Basis we have done every strategy, and over the period. I have even lost count of what AUM we would have serviced. But I would believe that today, all our segments put together, we are servicing in excess of $100 billion. And we are number one in the world for financial reporting of funds, which includes hedge fund and private equity funds and fund administration as well, which, as I told you, encompasses all the asset strategies and asset classes. We have 4 offices in India, including in the northeast of India, which I really love because it has given opportunities to people who otherwise would have had to migrate to rest of India. We have offices in 3 offices around the world, Singapore, Bahrain, and United States. We have about 180 people, 3 nationalities, 3 countries. I think we are pretty much well spread. And our clients are across the world because we believe not in geography play, but we believe in opportunity play. And we have always believed that history is now geography, and one must be global, which means you must service the globe, you must be servicing India. And we take pride in the fact that we have for long been Atmanirbhar Bharat, made in India for the world. I suppose that should give you a good indication of who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the facts and the numbers you mentioned, they speak a lot about what you have achieved and accomplished. But I am not a finance expert myself, so let's say there is someone who doesn't understand about hedge fund and all. So how would you define what Basis does to someone like that?
So Basis does a couple of things. We are into financial reporting. We are into fund administration. We have our own platform fund in Gift City, meaning a fund with schemes underneath. We have a software division that has created a very unique legal agreements automation software. We have, very importantly, a human resource service. So there are close to 6-7 segments that we operate, and some of them are traditional, fully blossomed. Some of them are our own startups based on the target clientele market that we service. I believe in our business, people, process, and technology, all the 3 are very important. It is very important to be technologically ahead, and we have had the good fortune of leading many technology measures
Mhm,
right from day one. As an example, we had biometric security when even our clients were using access cards.
mhm,
So we spend a lot of money on technology, but that is not all. We spend a lot of money on processes. We spend a lot of money on people who are ultimately the most important ones. And we believe that even though we are primarily in B2B business, the requirements of the B2B are the same as B2C, which means your request must be tracked, it must be looked at, it must be closed, you must have statistical data, and almost runs like any consumer
mhm,
company. Because while we offer very specialized services, we also offer it at scale. We do for about 7,000, 8,000 funds. So it is, I would call scale, I would call it skill the scale,
mhm,
or scale the skill. I would call it scale the skill, because normally it is very difficult to scale the skill, but I believe we have got the right blend to do that. Now, what is a hedge fund? What is a private equity fund? And in very simple terms, a hedge fund invests in public markets, meaning listed securities, and it invests both. It can invest for with a positive, with a long bias and a short bias, meaning it can make money when the market goes down, it can make money when the market goes up. So net it produces a very secular return, meaning a return that goes up significantly but quietly over a
mhm,
period. Private equity is, of course, where you have unlisted equity, private shares or private debentures, and these are used to fund either a venture capital situation or a growth equity situation or pre-IPO situation. So these are bets that are taken before the company goes public. And then you have crypto funds and cryptocurrency funds and loan funds and so on and so forth. So this is the primary target that we offer in our traditional services. In our legal tech, which is contract agreements automation, of
mhm,
course, it is open for the wide big world. It can go from corporates to legal practitioners to people who need legal agreements but cannot afford lawyers. And we call it as fire and forget, and that's a retail product. Our human resource management services are built on the premise that we have managers who are more and more tech savvy and understand technology, are interfacing with customers well, but don't necessarily have the ability and the time to manage human beings, and
mhm,
that's very important. So we have taken it upon ourselves to manage the human resources for others, which can mean from talent acquisition to performance monitoring to advisory to what happens when there's a labor issue, what happens when people resign, and all of these are completely automated and go in one flow.
got it.
And a person joins and everything on the first day. We have made it possible that within the first 4 to 5 hours, the person has an email ID, they have login access, and which means in the fifth hour they really start their training.
Mhm,
This vastly improves or cuts down the time uh, for people to be on stream. We also have an online training school with content and evaluation and so forth. And now we are very confident that this service can be offered to medium size and big size and small size firms
mhm.
so that they benefit from our experience.
Got it. I think you are now offering quite a number of services ranging from HR to finance, hedge fund, and VC and all.
And
But
IT.
and IT, of course. But would be curious to know what is the journey that has been taken to reach here. How did it all start? Uh, when did you start this venture? With what vision? What was the hypothesis? And then tell us about the journey. What were the challenges? What were the ups and downs?
So the 9/11 started it all when I realized that the fund managers were getting more and more demanding and they needed more services, but there was a constraint in the US and European markets. So I kind of figured out that we would be better off moving this to India and offering the services. So packed the bags and came back to India and realized that India was not technologically far behind at all. We had ILL lines and we were already doing Six Sigma processes, and so it was not a bad situation. So gathered some money. My wife became the co-entrepreneur. She kind of helped us afloat by working and putting in some capital. We got external capital and we paid that off in 2018, and we managed to stay afloat for some time and got one of the large European banks as the first client. And from there on, kept adding. Came 2008, and there was a meltdown, and then it took a while because the revenues went down. And in 2017, it all came back again. And from there on to now, we have doubled our top line and economic value added, and also added new verticals.
We were discussing about the Indian way of business philosophy. So tell us a little bit about that. How have you found the Indian way of doing business? How is it different from the rest of the world? What are the unique things about the Indian business?
Indian native or ancient business philosophy is very, very relevant today. Our native business philosophy or our homegrown business philosophy talks about a principle of 333. You have the business idea incubating in your mind for 3 months. You work on it 3 days. You work on it for 3 months. And if it clicks, and after 3 years, you do a review and you're still in the business, that means this has now become a real business, which is scalable from here. That is point number one. Point number two, the Indian philosophy believes that you have to slug it out such that the entity is surviving and for a long period of time, because customers like businesses that have seen cycles and are able to survive.
Mhm.
This is, you know what, and especially in the service industry, people like that. Customers like businesses that are focused in what they do, and even if they are diversified, there is different people to take care of each business line. So this is the Indian philosophy, point number two. Finally, the Indian philosophy says that don't think equity is free. Equity, in fact, in the Indian wisdom of things, is to be offered to only those people who can help you out, meaning they have to be strategic in nature. If it is not strategic, better take a loan. And you take a loan only when you are confident of your cash flows. So therefore, the Indian
Okay.
business principle or philosophy does not believe in rapid scale. Rather, it calls for an incremental growth over a period. And more important, it sees scaling with stability, which I
Mhm.
believe is very, very important. And even after you are a good business and you have scaled up, borrow only if you see incremental value in the borrowing. And
Mhm.
finally, every business is a living organism.
Yes.
Never think you can shortcut the living organism, take money out as and when you want, and do things that are not conducive to business.
Mhm.
So, way back in ancient times, we had the concept of shrenik. Shrenik means a kind of a guild or a corporate where the ownership is different from the shareholders. And you had to respect that this was a living organism. So
Mhm.
long before the Western world said that a company is an artificial, separate judicial entity, our philosophy has always been that a business is a living organism by itself and it has a life beyond its founders and owners.
Got it. So, in that case, would like to hear your view on, like you mentioned, about inorganic scaling and funding. So, how do you feel about the unicorns, and like we have 100 unicorns now, and lot of funding coming in, lot of funding, companies are dying because of funding, companies are going big because of funding. So what is your thought on that?
Wonderful. So you have actually answered that question yourself because you said companies that get funded also die, companies that don't get funded also die. And there is nothing wrong with the unicorn approach. It is a management style. There is no hard and fast rule that this will work, this will not work. It all depends from situation to situation. But it is the comfort of the entrepreneur. And I believe every entrepreneur has to do things the way they feel comfortable about. Because if you take in too much of money and you're not able to service it, that is bad. You take in money and you service it, but then eventually, because with every round of funding, your stake becomes smaller and smaller. It is fine with some people. It is not fine with people who like to have control. So it all depends upon what the entrepreneur wants. And quick startups, accelerated growth, unicorn, these are all trends of today, and one can't find fault with it. But there is also another school of thought which says, take it, raise capital when you need it, make sure you have alpha growth, make sure that your assessment is close to reality. Be aware that there can be twists and turns, turn around, and then rebuild it again, and think that you're going to be doing this for a lifestyle. So there are two approaches. There is nothing to say what is right and what is wrong. It is what one believes in. And my earlier discussion with you on the Indian way of doing things is drawn from business history and what I'm comfortable with.
Hmm, got you. uh, my final question again around the philosophy of Indian business and the long run game that entrepreneurs play. Would like to know from you, what is the meaning of entrepreneurship for you? How would you define the term entrepreneur, or what is the process of entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship is about passion. Entrepreneurship is about innovation. Entrepreneurship is about sacrifices. Entrepreneurship is about vision. Entrepreneurship is the ability to stomach ups and downs. And you must remember that you are in for a very long haul.
Mm. So customers like long haul, because let's say they buy something from you, and after some point, when they want to do a repair or service, you should be there. But why is it
Correct.
a long run game for entrepreneurs? What do they benefit by playing it long term?
Uh, your inspiration is Tata's, your inspiration is Birla's, your inspiration is the Ambani's, your inspirations are so many groups in this country that have been around for 200 years. They have their value, they have their standing. Customers like them because they know that if they buy something from them today, be it a good or a service, if something happens to it, they will not have a new management who will say, you know what, I didn't know anything about it, and it is your problem. Please handle it. Please read the agreement, and the agreement says so and so.
Got you. Cool. On.
Remember, you are, remember the relationship with your customer is lifelong. The
Mm,
relationship with your employee is also long. Both, in a way, for an entrepreneur, both are customers.
mhm.
And until the internal customer is happy, the external customer cannot be happy. And
That's.
when you say the internal customer is happy, you have to make sure that they are reasonably happy, because nobody can be happy forever and all the time.
Mm,
But what is very important is uh, uh, you train them, you kind of empower them, you then release them, you keep a look at them, and you plan their career growth. And a lot of it also means that you understand more about their family and try and understand what situation they are. And that is not restricted to having a cake party and bursting the balloon. These are all very, very long term relationships. And you
Mm.
can draw inspiration from the Tatas and Birlas of this country. Some of their employees are almost family members in the real sense of the word.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody were to fall sick, you have heard of Ratan Tata who went all the way to Pune to meet his former colleague. So, you
Yeah.
know, these are very important, at least in this country. And I'm sure some of it is true in the Americas also. Although America is seen as a transactional country, I have seen entrepreneurs having a very, very familial outlook.
Mm. Well, on this note, I think we are up with the time. Thanks for your time, Mr. Aditya, and it was a pleasure to have you on our platform.